All right, we're now recording, so welcome everyone to our Discovery Cafe on how to get involved in research with a special focus on the humanities, arts, cultural studies, and social sciences. So that really covers a lot of majors. And so I'm excited to be here with you today because I am a non-STEM researcher myself. I research education, higher education more specifically. And so I'm excited to share some resources with you here today. All right, so really quickly, our mission at the URC is to help inspire and facilitate student engagement in undergraduate research, scholarship, and creative activities in all disciplines. And we do that by trying to empower students to find research opportunities with UC Davis faculty and also to provide them resources to help them not only get started, but once you're in a research position, to be awarded for your excellence in undergraduate research. And also, should you need any funding, we have features, we have some resources for that as well. So here's where I'm going to invite everyone here to have a little participation. So I'm going to enable the annotate function on Zoom. So I just enabled it. So at the bottom of your screen where you see the chat, you should see a pencil icon. Click on that pencil icon and it'll bring up kind of a bar. And then you'll see there's a text button. Click on that text button. And then it'll give you the opportunity to type an answer on the screen. So there's no wrong answers to this. So I want to hear from you. What do you think undergraduate research is? And more specifically, what do you think undergraduate researchers within the HArCSS focus area, discipline area, what kinds of things do you think they do as researchers? Now, I will say if you're on a phone, you may not be able to find the annotate button on the phone. So I see a few folks are not seeing it. Let me make sure I turned it on. Okay, turned it off and on again. Let me see what can. All right, so how about we do this? Put your answers in the chat and I will put them on this board here for us. How about that? So just start putting things on the chat and I will put them on the board. Oh, it looks like someone found it. Great. So if you can't find the annotate, totally fine. Just go ahead and put it in the chat and I'll make sure to put it in here for you. All right, so research behaviors and human interactions, absolutely. I see a test, a lot of testing. Scientific methods, definitely. Solving problems, absolutely. Identifying points of interest and relevance. That's a good one. Analyzing different sources and cultures, or societies, I think that says, in cultures. What else? Immersive experience where you have the ability to engage with higher ups on their research. Yes. Research is definitely an immersive experience. Get a few more on here, that would be great. How different fields and areas of study are interconnected in multidisciplinary study. Absolutely. Good research is always interdisciplinary. Being able to learn from other fields. Awesome. Studying unexplained phenomenons that occur in everyday life with professionals that have more experience than you who can guide you. That's a great answer, Valencia. Researching ways to improve or find answers to questions, absolutely. Being able, being able to connect what's in theory to what's going on in the world today and in the past, absolutely. All right, so I'm gonna turn off the annotate for those folks who were able to find it. Thank you for everybody's participation. Clear everything, and then we're gonna move on. Oh, I gotta turn off mine too. All right. So what is undergraduate research? Everyone pretty much hit it on the head, right? So it's asking questions. It's studying trends. It's sharing stories and experiences, giving a voice to a particular community. I strongly believe that there is no voiceless community. There are only communities who are unheard. And so research is a really great way to provide that opportunity for a community to be heard. You might be filling a gap of knowledge, right? And so, for example, let's say filling a gap of knowledge, actually, what we're going through right now is a great example of filling a gap of knowledge. We don't have a vaccine for COVID-19. We don't have a way to cure it. So that's um, one that's asking questions. What is a cure to COVID-19? Studying trends. What communities are experiencing COVID-19? Are there any differences? And our current research shows us that there are. Sharing stories and experiences of folks who have either experienced COVID-19 themselves or have family members who have experienced COVID-19, given a voice to that particular community. And we're filling a gap because it's a new phenomenon that we have no research currently related to. So my next question to you all, you can put your answer in the chat. Where does research come from? What drives research? There's a lot of answers, but I'm looking for one answer in particular. What do you have to have or be to do research? What drives research? All right, is it Arden? Hopefully I'm not spelling your name incorrectly, but curiosity, definitely. Sage also said curiosity. True data, unanswered questions, asking the right questions. Curiosity is kind of the word that I'm looking for. So if you're curious about something, you can usually turn that into a question. And if you can turn it into a question, then you can turn it into a research project. So for example, were you curious about fashion, how clothing is made, what types of fabrics are being used, why are we using particular fabrics over others? Are you someone that likes to create with your hands? Are you someone that likes to take something apart and then put it back together? Those are all uh, curiosities that can be turned into questions, right? Or maybe you're having a particular experience. Let's say you're a first generation college student and you say, I know I'm not the only first generation college student, but I don't know what other first generation college students are experiencing, which is my area of research. I'm a first generation college student, first generation professional. And so I study a lot of those trends. And so I was looking for some insight into if people were having similar experiences I. And so that's really a way that you can also start to explore what types of research you might be interested in, is asking yourself, what am I curious about? What answers am I looking for? All right. So before we get into, I'm going to cover kind of some very specific steps that you can take to hopefully help you find a research position within HArCSS. But before I get to that point, I would like to talk about some common myths that are out there about undergraduate research in general. So these are some common things that we see come through our emails or questions that students might ask us or tell us. Only STEM majors can do research. Well, we know that that's not true, right? So research takes place all around us. It takes place every day. We might be doing research like tasks that we don't even realize we're doing, right? Um, As I mentioned, I do research in higher education, so I study first generation college students and their experiences and how they access the different support services on campus, like maybe TRIO or maybe any of the centers we have on campus, like the LGBTQIA plus center, the Cross Cultural Center, the African Diaspora, El Centro, the Native Nest, all of these different areas. Research only happens in a lab. Again, research is taking place all around us. Research can definitely take place in a lab, and it does, but it is not restricted to that place either. I can't get a position if I don't already have research experience. Now, this may be true at in some instances at colleges and universities, but by and far on our campus, faculty are willing to work with students who do not have any research experience because we all have to start somewhere. So if you have no research experience, don't let that be a reason why you don't apply for a position or seek out a position. Instead, talk about, what types of what type of transferable skills you have that might help you be beneficial to that team. So some of those transferable skills can be you are highly organized. You have really great time management skills. You have really great interpersonal skills, which means you can work with almost anyone, right? Or maybe you're a really good problem solver. Those are all things that are important in a researcher. There's no research programs for non-STEM majors. We have a program in our office called the Mentor-Mentee program for students in the Humanities, Arts, Cultural Studies, and Social Science. For short, it's our MMP HArCSS program. It is specifically for students in the HArCSS majors. I'm going to put the name of that program in the chat so you have it. Excuse me. Let's put in the chat. It's specifically for second year students and new transfers who are looking to be connected with a mentor, a peer mentor, either a master's or a doctoral student in an area that you're interested in. So let's say political science. If you're interested in political science, we'll try and match you with someone else who is interested in political science and is doing research and can mentor you on the research process and potentially even engage you in their own research projects so you can kind of get some hands-on research experience. So we offer that program every winter and spring. It's a 2-quarter commitment, but applications are due in October, and you can go to our website, urc.ucdavis.edu, and under programs, I just put our website in the chat. Under programs, you can find our MMP HArCSS program. That's not the only program, obviously, but it's one that we run. There's also Murals, all caps, that offers positions to non-STEM students. There is also something called Aspire, all caps, which is particularly for first generation, first year students. And it's really meant for psychology, sociology, anthropology, cognitive science type students. So I have to do research within my major. Not true. If you are a history major and you are also very interested in anthropology, you can do a research project in anthropology. If you are a cognitive sci major and you are just a really big history buff, you can do research in history. Your major does not restrict you to the type of research you can do. I'm going to skip this one over because it's not related to our session today. I don't want to go to grad school, so research isn't for me. Again, not true. I think if you want to go to grad school or professional school, you definitely want to try and get some sort of research experience. But if you're not looking to graduate school, or let's say you're just unsure right now, participating in undergraduate research can also offer you those transferable skills that I talked about, right? Those transferable skills that whether you're a professional researcher, you're a history teacher, or you own a franchise of a Starbucks, you're going to need those skills, right? good interpersonal skills, good communication skills, problem solving skills, all skills that you can gain and refine during during an undergraduate research experience. I can't do research because I need a summer job. Now, this is totally real, especially now, right? Where folks are really looking for, we have such a high unemployment rate in our country. But do know that if you do a summer research position and experience, they typically pay quite well because they want students to be able to focus most of their energy on that research position. So there's usually a significant stipend attached to a summer research position. I don't have enough time to do research. At UC Davis, students typically spend anywhere from 8 to 12 hours a week on average to research. And this can really be dependent on the amount of time. When you're applying for positions, a common question they'll ask you is, what is your schedule like? And it is definitely okay to say, I have about 6 to 8 hours available for research, right? Because then the faculty member will be able to tell you if they have enough work for you, right? So there's no university policy that says you have to do an X amount of hours of research when you join a research lab. It's totally up to the faculty member and you as a student. I don't know where to start looking for a research position. We're going to cover that today. And the only reason to do research is to get a good rec letter. Getting a good rec letter is definitely a benefit, but here are some other benefits to consider. Critical thinking and analytical skills. You have an opportunity to practice teamwork, communication, and leadership. Let's say you get into a position and you do really well, you do stellar, then you're promoted to maybe a senior research position, assistant position. That's good leadership. You can get a global perspective, prepare yourself for lifelong learning, increases confidence, and of course, earn recommendation letters for graduate or professional school. So right now, approximately 50% of all UC Davis undergraduates are assisting faculty in research projects or creative activities during their academic careers. So let's put this into an actual number. We have approximately 30,000 undergraduate students at UC Davis. We have just a little bit more than 30,000. So according to the statistic, currently there are about, or when this survey was taken in 2014, there were approximately 15,000 undergraduate students doing research. So it's a pretty common experience on our campus, but it is not the only experience on our campus. I like to point that out to students as well. And we're actually in the process of updating this data right now. So what does research look like? It can look like field work, right? If you can actually be getting your hands dirty in going and doing your research, we have the benefit of so much agricultural sites in Davis that you can go and do great research. We have a vineyard on our campus. You wouldn't even have to leave campus. We have student-run farms on our campus, things like that, right? So fieldwork can be a way for research to show up for students who major in the HArCSS. The only difference between STEM research, the only main difference between STEM research and non-STEM research is the way that you carry out your research. For STEM majors, they typically carry out their research in a lab. For those of us in the HArCSS field, humanities, arts, cultural studies, and social studies, we do our research almost anywhere. It can be in an art studio. It can be on a college campus, at a high school, at an elementary school. It can be in the field. It can be at a community organization. It just really shows up different. And I want to do a special shout out to our creative arts students, because I think sometimes our creative arts students get forgotten with research. And so, you know, these are students who presented at our undergraduate research scholarship and creative activities conference over the last 2 years. I've been here for 2 years, so these are the most recent pictures. So you'll see that the top of the slide with the red dresses, that is a student created those dresses from scratch. She designed them, she sewed each little stitch in them, and she made adjustments and did things like that. the very bottom, the gentleman with the painting, the picture, the painting, he did that. He created it. He sketched it out, did everything like that, right? So it may not be like, let's say, a scientific method that you're using to conduct your research, but instead maybe it's a creative method or an innovative method, right? So there might be different paints that are preferred to than other. Is it oil? Is it oil paints? Is it acrylics? What's going to look good on a canvas versus, let's say, a wood canvas, right? So these are all critical thinking skills that are being put to the test, that are being utilized, that are also show up as research opportunities. So I do want to stop for a second and just invite anyone that as you have questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat and I will do my best to keep up with the questions. I also have a list of questions that folks submitted when they were registering, so I will do my best to get to those questions as well. But now I'm going to move into your developing your research action plan, right? It takes some time to find a research position. In a normal setting, when we're not in remote learning, it can take anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks, right? I would say with the remote learning period that we're in, it probably is going to take more like 6 to 8 weeks. And the reason I say that is because, as you all know, not anyone, not a lot of us are on campus right now. It's only the essential workers. And so that includes faculty members. So faculty members are having to rethink how they're doing research. And so they may take a little bit longer to get back to you to be able to help you find those positions. So here's what we're going to cover in the next couple of slides. I'm going to go into detail of each one. So step one, you want to determine your why. Start with what you know, right? You've taken, unless you're an incoming first year student or a transfer student, you've taken a UC Davis course, at least one UC Davis course, right? So start with what you know. What faculty members have you taking courses with? Was there a course that really just piqued your interest and you looked forward to going to every day? Was there a faculty member that you just really connected with because you enjoyed the way they taught? You really connected with how they were presenting the information? Because chances are, if a faculty member can really connect with students in a really large lecture hall, they are probably going to be a great mentor one-on-one or in a small group, right? So start with what you know. Start with the classes that you've taken. If you're a new transfer student coming in, start with the classes you took at community college. Many community colleges are having students conduct research at the community college level. It's becoming more and more common. If you're first year, if you're an incoming first year student, ask yourself, what are you curious about? What were classes in high school that you really enjoyed? Was it your history class? And if it was your history class, why history? And then try to replicate those interests here on campus. The possibilities truly are endless. As I mentioned before, your major does not restrict the type of research you can be involved in. You might also, I'm a big fan of planning backwards. So you might want to ask yourself, what is your career goal? Maybe it's to go to graduate school. And so let's use the graduate school example. If you know you want to go to graduate school, looking at the programs, let's say you want to go to graduate school in anthropology, cultural anthropology, right? Look at the grad schools that you're looking at. What kinds of requirements do they require? Do they require a research experience? If they do require a research experience, then it's going to be in your best interest to find one before you graduate, right? And then plan backwards. You might have really great skills and you might meet some, let's say 3 of their 5 requirements, but 2 of their requirements you haven't. Try to plan backwards to be able to fulfill those requirements during your time here. And how will research help you achieve your goals? I always tell students it's so important to find what you're really passionate about and what you're really great at. On the other side of that coin, it is also really important to find out what you do not enjoy, right? Because unfortunately, you won't know those answers until you actually do it, right? So for example, I won't know if I love olives until I try an olive. And there's so many different types of olive, right? So I may like green olives, but not black olives. And so I don't know that unless I try it. So it's the same thing with research. You won't know until you try it. And even if you figure out at the end, you know what, research is not for me, you're still going to walk away with those transferable skills we talked about earlier. Okay, so I really love this student's quote. And so I bring it up in all my presentations, whether it's for STEM or non-STEM students. Joni was a recipient of our travel award, which provides up to $500 to students to go and present their research at, um, at a conference, at a professional conference. And she says, be passionate about your research. If you are not invested, it is very difficult to do research well. Be inquisitive and logical about your research. If something seems wrong or interesting, speak up and look into it. That critical thinking is essential for the advancement of science. And so I would say the advancement of all research, that critical thinking is essential, right? So if you're studying a trend, like let's say voting rights, if you're studying a trend within voting rights and you notice something is off, something doesn't connect, be willing to ask questions about why it doesn't connect. And I think that can, you can always discover a new area of research or a new area of passion for yourself when you do that. So where to look, right? Where am I going to find the research opportunities? Unfortunately, our campus currently does not have, I get asked this all the time, does UC Davis have a portal or a database that we can look through to find research positions? Unfortunately, our campus does not currently have that. But you have kind of your own pseudo database within your own experience, right? So you can look at current or past classes or current or future faculty member. Let's say there's a faculty member you really want to work with and you haven't taken a course with theirs yet. If they're offering a course that you are interested in taking, I would recommend registering for that course. Even if you don't have them in class, you don't have to only work with faculty that you've taken classes with. You can work with a faculty member you've never taken a class with. College and department websites. Unfortunately for the HArCSS majors, this is going to be your best place to look for research opportunities on college and department websites. And I say unfortunately because there are some departments and colleges that do an excellent job of making it very clear what positions they have open related to research. And then there are others that do not do such a great job. So it can be a little bit tedious to look through college and department websites, but for HArCSS majors, for the research that we are interested in the most, it's going to be the best place to look. Handshake, if you do not have a Handshake profile, I strongly recommend that you create one. It's a really great resource. There are definitely research positions listed. You just have to look under the keyword search of undergraduate research. Now, one caveat that I will give you is that both undergraduate and graduate students have access to Handshake. So just make sure that when you're looking at the Handshake postings, you're ensuring that you're eligible with them as an undergraduate student. And the great thing about Handshake is you can apply directly in the site, so you don't have to usually fill out a separate form or a separate application. If you do have to fill out a separate application, they will note that in Handshake, because as an employer, they ask you several questions and they ask you whether you'll be allowing students to apply via Handshake or if you want them to apply on your own website. And then the URC. The URC, we have a tab called Programs, and we have a tab of programs that we offer in-house at the URC. And then we also have a list of campus-wide partners who offer programs as well. So that can be a really good starting point to see where you would like to go with those questions. I'm going to stop really quick because I see a few questions coming in. Do you pick your own research topic or is it up to the faculty member? Well, it depends because this can be yes to both questions. So typically starting out, if you have no research experience or limited research experience, Typically starting out, you're going to work on a research project that someone else has already started. It could be a faculty member, it could be a graduate student. So you're most likely going to start out with a project that's already started. If you're, let's say, already have research experience and you've been doing research for a couple quarters or years, you might be able to engage in what's called independent study research, or you might be able to do a thesis from your specific major. So typically, students are able to do independent research or thesis work have had at least 1 or 2 quarters of research under their belt, right? So it just really depends. Let's see. When do research positions open up? Is it quarterly or whenever the faculty decides? Again, it's both. There's no real policy that says when faculty have to open up their research. It really depends on them. So it depends on kind of the progress of their current research projects. Like if they finish a project and then start a new one, they might be hiring more at the time of starting a new one. Maybe they got a grant that they have to facilitate. The structured research programs like MMP HArCSS, Murals, the 2 programs I mentioned before, they're always going to have some formalized application process that has a deadline. So for those structured programs, you want to follow whatever protocol they have laid out. And it's usually pretty clear on their websites. I usually tell students a good rule of thumb is to start looking for a research position the quarter before you want to start. So let's say you want to start in the winter quarter. You want to start looking for a research position in the fall quarter because it takes about that much time to find one that you're going to be super interested in, is going to be a good fit for you. So usually, and that goes for the summer as well. Let's say you want to focus on summer research. Folks typically hire for summer research in the spring. So you want to start looking in the spring. However, if it's in the middle of the quarter and you see a research position that you're really interested in, apply for it, right? All right. I'm going to go on here. So we're going to talk about really quickly resumes versus CVs. When you apply for a research position, whether it's informally through an email or formally through a formal application process, the most common items they will ask students for is going to be a resume or CV and some sort of cover letter. And for the formal research programs, they typically will ask you for like a personal statement or a statement of interest, right? So first, what is the difference between a resume and CV? A resume is a brief summary of your experience. A general rule is for every institution of higher education you attend, you should have about 1 page, right? So for example, once you finish at UC Davis, you should have about 1, maybe 1.5 pages full of experience on your resume. If you're a first-year student, you're just coming out of high school, or you're a transfer student, for a transfer student, that's really going to depend, right, on how much experience you have. For a first-year student, you're really going to have a 1-pager that includes a combination of high school versus maybe starting out in college, depending on when you apply. A CV, it stands for curriculum vitae, which literally means story of life, right? And so this is typically an extensive summary, like an extensive recollection of the experience that you have related to a particular position. CVs are usually more common amongst doctoral students and are more common amongst faculty members. Now, some faculty members use them interchangeably. So whenever you're applying for a position, if they ask for a resume, send a resume. If they ask for a CV, send a CV. If they say a resume/CV, I would strongly recommend that you ask them for clarification. The Internship and Career Center has examples of resumes and CVs, and they actually have a sample of a research resume that you can look at that I often show students, and it's under the resume materials tab. Now, one thing I will tell you about resumes is resumes are like opinions. Everybody has them, but it doesn't mean anyone is right or wrong, right? And it's the same thing with resumes. You want to look at a resume and feel confident that the information you've put in a resume accurately just communicates your expertise and the skills that you have. If you look at your resume and you feel confident in that, then you probably have a pretty solid resume, right? The Internship and Career Center does do walk-in hours, and they are currently doing walk-in hours as well during COVID. And so they usually have walk-in hours every Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., where you can literally, well, not walk in right now, but you could probably find their equivalent online right now, where you can get set up with a person to help you. And it can be, I need help because I've never created a resume, and they'll help you, or you can say, here's my resume, I need to update it, and they can help you as well. A cover letter, I put /email because nowadays it's very rare to like take a physical hard copy cover letter into a position. So you are going to be communicating with faculty primarily through email, especially now. So in your cover email, you want to introduce yourself. Who are you? What's your major? And then what are you applying for? If they have a specific position listed on their website, like let's say research assistant or research volunteer or anything like that, you want to name the specific position that you're applying for. If you're not sure, you can just say something very general, like I'm applying to join your research project or your research team. And then why are you applying for that position, or why are you asking to join their team? And here you want to try and be as specific as possible. If they have on their website a project that you're particularly interested in, you might want to mention that project by name. You also want to talk about what skills you bring, right? And these can be kind of what folks like to call soft skills, which is that time management, communication, those kinds of things. So you always want to have a positive promotion and marketing of yourself. So let's say you're applying for a position and they say, must be well-versed in transcription, right? And let's say you've never transcribed anything. You never want to say something like, unfortunately, I don't have that experience right now, right? You always want to try and be positive and have a positive spin on it and say something like, although I do not have those skills right now, I'm excited to learn how to gain those skills in the near future to be a valuable member of your team, right? You always want to indicate your curiosity and determination and motivation to learn and be a part of the team. That's the most important thing there. I'm going to stop a little bit because I saw a few more questions pop in. Let's see. Do you think it's a good idea for a freshman to get involved in undergraduate research in terms of workload? I think that's really up to the individual student. I think when I was a first year student, would it have been a good idea for me to be involved in undergraduate research as a first year student? No, because to be quite honest, I was so lost my first year in undergrad that it took me, and I was at a university that was on semester. So it took me a good semester and a half to kind of get my feet under me and feel confident. And so if you relate to that and you think that that's going to be something that you need some time to kind of get your feet under you, then wait a quarter or two. It's not going to be the end of the world if you start research in your second year, or let's say the spring quarter of your first year. If you're a student where you're like, you know what, I'm really motivated, I'm really organized, I'm confident in my abilities to hit the ground running and do research, then by all means, hit the ground running. I think it really is about taking a look in and saying, am I ready for this? And if you feel like you are, then you can, right? There's no rule that says you can't be in research as a first year student. Are there people on campus who can help with students with resumes and CVs? Yes, the Internship and Career Center, definitely want to look at the Internship and Career Center. Luis, I'm going to forget his last name. There's an advisor at the There is an advisor at the ICC. His name is Luis. His last name starts with an E, and I cannot remember it right now. But he is amazing. He will take the time to meet with you and to give you really good feedback. So you can always tell him that E recommended you to him, and he'll get you some help. All right. So I don't see any more questions. So I'm going to keep going here. Continue to put them in the chat if you have them. We'll take a look at my clock here. All right. So communicating with faculty. Unfortunately, we don't have the option to do in person at this time. In person is best. So the alternative this coming year is going to be virtual office hours. Faculty are being required to host virtual office hours the coming academic year. So if you see that a faculty member you are interested in working with is hosting virtual office hours, I would strongly recommend that you attend. Oops, got ahead of myself. Oh, there we go. Okay. So I would strongly recommend that you attend. Also, many colleges and departments are going to be doing a lot of virtual programming. So look at the college and departments that you are interested in working in. See if they're hosting any virtual sessions, right? They might be hosting a Q&A with faculty members where you can maybe get connected to a faculty member there. They may be hosting a workshop like how to get involved in sociology research or psychology research. And they might have very specific information for you there. So definitely always try to engage in those areas where you have quote unquote face-to-face experience with people. And in this current time, it's going to be mostly virtually. Email. Email is going to be obviously I mentioned, email is going to be the way that you're going to be communicating with faculty members the most. It is extremely important to mind your email etiquette. And this is another aspect that the Internship and Career Center can help you with. It is essential that you have someone read your email before you send it to a faculty member. If you're not able to have someone read it or you don't feel comfortable having somebody read it out loud to yourself. Because if you read it out loud to yourself, you will most of the time catch any grammar mistakes, maybe you put an extra word or left out a word, or if you stumble over a sentence, that's probably a good indication that you need to rewrite it. I personally do this myself. After every email I send, I read it out loud to myself because I have dyslexia. And so sometimes there's things that I just don't catch. But if I read it out loud to myself, I'm more likely to catch it. So mind your email etiquette. Always refer to faculty as Dr. Nunez, Dr. Smith, Dr. whoever, right? Even if they're not a doctor, it's better to refer to them as that, and they say, oh, you can call me E, or oh, you can call me Keith, or whoever, right? It's better to do that and than to make the assumption and a faculty member be offended by that, right? It's not such a big deal at UC Davis, but at other universities I've worked at, some faculty are very insistent about folks referring to them as Dr. So-and-so. So you always want to show that respect up front, and then if they invite you to pull back and call them by their first name, then definitely do that as well. Following up on your email is extremely important. I've had faculty tell me that they will, like, let's say if they have a really popular research project and they get a lot of interest, if a student follows up with them, they're more likely to give that student an interview or at least communicate with them. Because by following up, you're showing your initiative, you're showing your determination, and you're showing the fact that you're really genuinely interested in that position and you're not just kind of emailing everyone on campus at once, right? So follow-up is definitely key. I usually tell students to give faculty about 1 week to get back to you, especially in this time. Beginning of quarters, as you all know, are very busy, and we get inundated with emails about join this, join that. And so it's really good to follow up at least a week after you send in the email. All right, and then there's the interview process, right? Which I'm not gonna spend too much time on this, but really it's about preparing, practicing, and relaxing. Prepare, do your homework, find a balance between how much you talk and how much you ask questions. You definitely don't want to overtake an interview. You want to practice, do mock interviews. The ICC does great mock interviews. Interview with friends. When I go on interviews, the way I practice is in front of a mirror, because when I get really nervous, I start talking very fast and I start talking with my hands. And so when I'm in the mirror, I can see those things and kind of plan for them as well. So I definitely do that in front of the mirror. It can be awkward at times, but it helps me kind of relax. And then relax, right? You know you best. No one knows you but you. And so you are the expert on the types of skills that you have and how you're going to be an effective member of that faculty member's team. So when we go back to campus, which I hope is sooner rather than later, please come and join us and visit us at the Student Community Center. We're right directly above the Cross Cultural Center. So come and join us, come stop by and say hi. And then this is our website. We have really ramped up our website in the time of COVID. We have some e-resources on there to help you continue to be involved in research and to kind of consider. So we have a lot of information on our website. All right, so I want to hear from you all. Let me bring up the chat again to see if there's any additional questions. All right, how long would an initial email be if it is the first time contacting a faculty member about their research opportunity interest? I would say 1 to 2 paragraphs is probably good. And when I say 1 to 2 paragraphs, they should be concise and to the point, right? So 3 to 4 sentences each, you know, and you want to be very clear and to the point. You don't want to send a one-liner, right? Because that's not going to give enough information to the faculty member. But you also don't want to lay out your whole journey to why you're interested in that particular research project. So I think 1 to 2 paragraphs is a good happy medium. What would a follow-up email look like and how to not sound rude or impatient? Great question. So when you send your email, your original email, it saves in your sent box, right? Bring up that email again, hit reply all. You can simply say, that is an okay time to do a 1 or 2 liner, right? You can simply say something like, Dear Dr. Smith, just following up on the below email I sent on August 20th. I'm really interested in your research project and look forward to hearing back. Very simple. You don't have to rewrite a whole nother email. Are research positions paid? There are research positions that are paid on our campus. Usually the structured research programs like the MMP, HArCSS, Murals, those kinds of programs, the structured formal programs, usually have some sort of stipend associated with the program. And so a stipend is usually a one-time payment or a payment that's, let's say you get an $800 stipend. You might get it broken up into 3 payments, right? And over the quarter, it just really depends. The most common way students are compensated for research is through earning credit. So that's kind of the independent, it's called variable units. And variable units, because the amount of time, physical time you spend on the research is the amount of units you get compensated. So from 1 to 6 hours is 1 unit, right? And then 7 to whatever is 2 units. So if you go to a faculty member and say, I have available 6 to 8 hours a week, you might get 2 units of compensation. And the good thing about that is that it shows up on your transcript, and then you have a formal transcript notation of a research opportunity on your transcript, so that if you're applying to a professional or graduate school, they'll see it right then and there. I highly recommend that if you're not getting paid monetarily, that you consider getting compensated via units, because you want to have some formal documentation of participating in a research position. How do we get into research that has already began? It's actually quite common for students to join research projects at various levels of the various steps of the research process. Usually what happens is a faculty member will say, if they're starting out a new program or new research project, they'll let you know that right away. Or if it's a long-standing program, they might say, you know, this is where we've already collected all our data, we're actually in the data analysis phase, and these are types of things you might be doing on a research project. So a faculty member will let you know kind of where you'll fall into their research process. So it's definitely common to be able to join research projects after they started. So I pulled a few questions from the registration questions that I wasn't going to be able to answer through the presentation. So I'm going to take a moment to answer those questions. There's a question about, I'm a senior, is it too late to start research? It is never too late to start research. A research opportunity, because we're in a quarter system, it actually works in your benefit, because the summer research opportunities are usually anywhere from 8 to 10 weeks. And if you start a quarter of doing research, you're starting 10 weeks of research, which means you're getting the same amount of research experience as someone who would do a summer program. So it's actually not too late to do research. Is remote field work a thing? I think that really depends on the actual faculty member. So I would ask, I know someone who's doing field work right now and they're actually at the site because they have precautions in place for COVID-19. So I think it really just depends on the actual faculty member. How can I publish my work? There are definitely prized publishing is a journal on campus, a student journal where you can publish. I would recommend going to the University Writing Program website to be able to look for opportunities to publish. I already talked about how you stand out to faculty is making sure that you follow up. Really, that's the biggest way you stand out to faculty. We talked about paid positions already and independent research. And then there's a question in the chat about if we want to present our research at the URC conference, will we need permission of the leading researcher? When will the next conference be? So yes, you will need you will need permission from the lead researcher because it's not your own individual research, right? So you'll need permission. And our next conference will be April 30th of 2020 through May 1st of 2020. And right now, we don't know if it's going to be in person or online. And as soon as we find that out, we'll make sure to make a big announcement on our website. And so it is actually 1 o'clock now, and I see a question just perfect for transitioning is, where can the recording of this be found? We are going to be putting it on our website. We're going to be putting it on our website, and we are going to, it's going to be under our events page, and we're going to be putting all of the recordings of all our Discovery Cafes on there. We will also be linking our YouTube channel that we have, where we have tons of videos related to how to get involved in research, how to apply for different awards we have. So definitely subscribe to our YouTube video. And before, I'm going to stop sharing this. And before we head out, I do, oh, it says I can't do that one. 1 second, let me get something really quick. I'm going to drop a link into the chat. And this is our evaluation form. So if you would all be so kind, you do have to be logged into your UC Davis account. So make sure you're doing that. But if you all would be so kind to fill out the evaluation form, it helps us to continue to increase the number of Discovery Cafes we have. There's a spot there for you to suggest different topics, and it really lets us know how effective these are being, so we as a team can continue to improve and make sure that we are meeting the needs that you all have. So that's the formal part of the presentation that I have. I will stick around for a little bit if anybody has any additional questions they want to ask. But for now, thank you all so much for joining me. Have a great weekend, and please stay safe and stay cool wherever you are. Oh, it says that you need permission. So you have to be logged in to your UC Davis account. Hold on one second. I'm going to stop recording.